Good evening, everyone. It's an absolute pleasure to host everyone that's present here tonight. And I must say, I see a few familiar faces from today morning, but I must say, quite a pleasant transition in the atmosphere from today morning. Um, so the drone industry is a rather serious industry, and we're always talking about type certification, how to sort of, reduce the export licensing, how to make everything easier, and we're just trying to grapple with the issues. So we thought it's high time that we change the mood of this industry a bit, and we do call ourselves a young industry, right? So we organized this drone mixer with the sole purpose to network, connect, and get to know each other. And maybe host more drone mixers than drone shivers. No, no, we'll host both. So it's lovely to have all of you here. And I myself cannot wait to get down and connect with all of you tonight since I'm new to the industry as well. And for now, I would like to hand over this podium to Rahul from Matrix.
Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining us on this very special day today. I know a lot of you are flying in from different parts of the country, so really appreciate it. I'm Rahul from Matrix Partners India. Just a quick introduction to Matrix, right? We are an early stage venture capital fund with about $1.5 billion in AUM today. We've had the good fortune of partnering with visionary entrepreneurs, building visionary companies in the past like Ola, Razorpay, 5-Star Business Finance, Off Business, among many others, right? So the idea for the panel discussion today is to, first of all, congratulate the ecosystem on how far we have come today, right? From there being no clarity till a few years back on, drone rules, to just the other day, the Honorable Prime Minister flying a drone with our very own Smith, right? We've come a long way. So with that context, we wanted to gather a high quality panel and discuss where we are today, where are we headed, how do we become a global drone hub, right? And as investors, as potential investors in the space, we are also happy to share why we are bullish about the space, what our overall outlook is, right? So with that context, let me quickly introduce the panel, right? So we have got Smith, President of DFI. Everybody knows Smith. Everyone knows everyone. We've got Ankit from ideaForge, Vipul from AEREO, Siddharth, Principal at Matrix Partners India. He leads our drone, space tech and consumer investments. And we've got Chirag, CEO of Drone Destination, as you all know. So I'm going to jump right into the panel, right? And I'm going to start with you, Smith. So, and my question is going to be on policy, right? So it's been a long journey, but I believe that the drone rules of 2021 really are a watershed moment when it comes to the drone industry in India, right? If I have to draw a parallel with, the Infosys journey, Mr. Narayan Murthy apparently had to make 80 visits to New Delhi to purchase the first computer. Are we beyond that phase when it comes to drones in India?
We are way beyond that phase. There is no phase like that. I think everyone in the audience will agree there is no major issue in terms of policy. If we want to do business of drones in India, any type of business requires only one permission or license. So I think maybe there will be some history book or some book someone will write which will have that first chapter, first paragraph where someone will say, yes, there was some policy, it was like this, but then there are some 1,000 pages about what happened after the policy was liberalized. So I think the entire ecosystem in India, whether you talk about the policy for operations or financial incentive or the funds that are coming from R&D organizations like DRDO and all, or you talk about the import prohibition, so there is ease of doing business. Manufacturer can make drones in India, and if he makes drones in India and he makes sales, government gives him incentive, so that is motivation. And after that, maybe if he was thinking that there was going to be foreign competition or there were going to be issues because of foreign competition, so import of foreign drones is banned. Of course, if they want to do business in India, they have to set up manufacturing here. What more could an entrepreneur ask? So I mean, that's the kind of ecosystem that has been created in India. And yes, we will have a lot of senior government officials who will be able to talk about a lot of details around this and the global perspective and all. But from the industry representation side, I can tell you we studied almost all regulations of all countries, all major economies. We can certify and say that India has got the most conducive environment and the most conducive thought process for drones.
That's amazing to hear, Smith. Thanks. I'm going to pinpoint on the broad applications or use cases of drones, right? And I'm going to begin with Ankit, because defense, as you know, is the largest use case today. Um, for the audience, right? What does defense entail, right? What is it that the government is looking for when it comes to defense drones? And any advice for new founders in the defense space?
So when it comes to, so first of all, I think I should like to, thank everyone for being present here on this evening. I think it's a great moment where we have a large part of the industry here joining us for this evening. And second of all, I'd like to thank everyone who's made it possible for us to have events of this scale and size. I don't think we were just having this conversation like about 2 minutes back that, in 2007 when we started, 2006 when one other company had started, and when in 2011 Asteria had begun. We were 3 companies in the drone industry for a long while. And from there to maybe 300 or, like Smith says, maybe 800 plus. So it is a massive moment to see such a large ecosystem brewing, and it is extremely heartening for all of us to realize that the industry finally has its moment under the sun. You rightly pointed out that defense is the torchbearer as far as this industry and its transformation to being a sizable industry is concerned in the country. Over the last 3 years, particularly because of the movements, or I would say adverse movements that happened on our borders, there is a heightened sense of the need to deploy technology to not just counter, but actually it began with trying to match what we were seeing on the other side. On the other hand, we have also seen what has happened globally in the defense space, and we have seen the fact that there are wars now that have been won on the strength of drones in record time. And there are wars that have had protracted battle of attrition, largely, as far as the narrative goes, centered around drones. So I think the fact that the new age wars are all going to be about the man and the machine, and the machines, particularly drones, are going to play an extremely important part as far as the battlefield is concerned. And as far as uses are concerned, there is usage from the entire spectrum of sniping to swarming, making sure that you can look at targets from really far away, target them from far away, to making sure that in the peacetime, when there is no active war, we are aware what are the movements that are happening on the other side. In many cases, they say that the war is won before the first bullet is fired. Otherwise, a war usually does not happen easily. And therefore, to make that happen, you need intelligence, you need the awareness of what is there on the other side and how to be able to plan around it. So the role of what is known as ISTAR, or intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance, target acquisition, is something which is the first step of how drones enter the battlefield, or how drones are used continuously, to the next step of acquiring targets and then targeting them, to the next steps of not just looking at targets, but in the case of swarming, we all are aware that you are overwhelming the enemy defenses. You are trying to overwhelm by sheer numbers and play a war of attrition that can allow other major assets to do their roles more effectively. So defense is definitely an area where each and every aspect, including mapping and inspection, what is typically or primarily considered to be a civil use, have a lot of role to play as far as use is concerned. So it's a very exciting sector, and we are very happy to participate in the opportunity that has come about because of all the tectonic movements that have happened around us.
Brilliant. Thanks, Ankit, and congratulations on the blockbuster listing. Unfortunately, I didn't get any allocation.
I think complain of most people in the audience.
Coming to you, Vipul, I'd love for you to chip in on how you zeroed in on the use cases that you wanted to build for, right? What was the thought process there? How did you figure out what are the large spaces that you would have the right to win in?
Well, when we started our journey, primarily people were looking at using drones only for defense and surveillance applications. So back in 2012-13, we were wondering how do we create a niche in this sector and how do we enjoy it also, because you need to enjoy what you're building, right? So it was sheer amount of passion which made us start that, but then we used a lot of, let's say, digging into possibilities. Then we took examples from how space tech and the mainstream aviation evolved beyond defense use case, because if you look at their journey, the primary use cases and the growth happened in the defense space, and then ultimately people realize a lot of other benefits they can extract from the same technology and its derivative for civilian applications. We could see that there are possibilities which can be unlocked for a lot of enterprise-focused applications where the efficiency of the enterprises to take their business decisions, drive growth, improve productivity can be enhanced using drones. Because essentially we are able to carry a payload which can look at objects much closer, collect a lot of refined and detailed data set. And with that kind of refinement, we also saw that there's a possibility of enormous amount of analytical decision making which can be opened up, right? So that led to doing various business assessments, what use cases, what possibilities, and we understood quite early in our journey that it's the solution which is going to have the first say. While there are different technologies required to achieve the solution, but ultimately it's the solution for which the customer pays for, especially in the commercial or civilian application. So the mindset started calibrating around how to build a solution together for what problems. Again, conventional business decision-making approach, what problems are big enough, repetitive enough, where we can generate high ROI for the customer and make a profitable business. The journey was not easy because when we started, the ecosystem was not there globally like what it is today. Even to import a small motor, and Ankit can correlate with this problem statement, to get a motor which is having enough life, it was so difficult to justify that you're going to use it for non-defense application, because those times it was only a couple of or handful of companies around the world which were making as simple as component as motor for anything which is a reliable application beyond defense. So they were not making anything beyond defense, by the way. Everything was being made for hobby grade applications. So it was very difficult to achieve the reliability of the product which was needed to kind of create a scalable solution in the market. So we ended up doing a lot of work of building things from scratch, failing a lot of times, a lot of heartbreaks in the process. And I think for a fair amount of time, I believe a lot of people in the room who started before 2017-18 era would be able to correlate that before that, a lot of people considered this space as a science project, especially when you were unlocking the use cases for, let's say, something unknown, because globally there was nothing like drones for commercial application until 2015, right? And until then, whatever we were doing, people considered, okay, some kids in the college are trying to do a science project, until we proved that there is a commercial value to it. So, I mean, as we move forward now, I see with the possibilities, especially the burden of following onerous policy requirements removed from the sector, there is an enormous vertical specific story which is building up, right? There are enough use cases in the industry which requires very focused technology creation on hardware, software, operational processes, that there is room for everyone to pick up a problem statement and build a scalable business over that. It is about just identifying your role in solving that problem. So yeah, that's what our experience and take away from the market is, that how can you build a solution for a select set of large scale use cases and deliver value to the customer so that you also can get a let's say, sizable value back as a return on your investment of time and capital on building the technology. Yeah.
Great, thanks Vipul. Coming to you, Chirag, you started Drone Destination as a DGCA certified drone pilot training institute, and then diversified into mapping as a business, right? Would love to know your journey, and your journey specifically has an interesting twist as well, because you decided to list on the SME exchange, right? So would love to understand how you made that decision.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, so first of all, great to have everyone here. So welcome. It's an honor to be sitting here with a lot of experienced folks. We're relatively new in the sector. But just to kind of give you, like Vipul mentioned, 2017-18, drone as a sector was almost perceived as an R&D project, right? You had mostly college kids, IIT grads doing research. And that is where, incidentally, we kind of realized that there could be an opportunity to sort of organize the sector and then bring some kind of an institutional play. So that became one of our driving points, that we realized that businesses still need to see this sector as a business opportunity, and generally you should be able to identify something 5 years down the lane. So I would say thankfully, coincidentally, we had that we got the opportunity to identify the the kind of scope this technology can bring in and the kind of impact this could have. So what we decided initially, of course, we went in starting as a training organization, because we realized any new sector will require tons of skilling to happen, right, at different levels. Piloting at one side, maintenance, repair, and post-processing. So, and as we speak, even today, if I did a quick show of hands and asked how many people are satisfied with the talent pool that they have, or what they want, even today we still struggle, because this human resource is still under development. It's a completely new category for most people. So of course, training ended up, we ended up taking this as the first route. And honestly, with training, it was a conscious call that you'll be able to understand the new talent, how is the youth responding. Like वो NIIT के days थे, कंप्यूटर की टेक्नोलॉजी आई सबने, उसके बाद में कोडिंग आया, अब आपके पास में इतने सारे कोडिंग के लोग आ रहे हैं, अब ये ड्रोन एक नया वर्ड आया, इसके बारे में लोगों को जानना है. तो इसीलिए it was so, but when we realized on ground कि हाँ, can this be picked by a decent science graduate, and we realize yes, टेक्नोलॉजी को आप जितना इनको ऑन फील्ड इस टैलेंट पूल को आप पकाते रहेंगे, उतना ये अच्छा काम कर सकते हैं. Because at the end of the day, when we are running any of the operations, that human resource is going to be the backbone, right? And all of us can probably agree to that. So we found merit there. But incidentally, उसके बाद जैसे ट्रेनिंग का काम आगे बढ़ाते गए, we have another company, which is a manufacturing arm called Hubble Fly. So we incidentally, शुरू में DGCA के साथ में Praveen sir is here, Manish sir is, everyone sitting on प्रोविजनल एक्सेप्टेंस का पूरा जर्नी देखा. हम सब ने जितने इस प्लेटफॉर्म पे हैं, NPNT समझा, तो ड्रोन्स बनाए, उसको प्रोविजनली एक्सेप्ट कराया, फिर रेगुलेशंस चेंज हुई, टाइप सर्टिफिकेशन कराई, नाउ वी आर ऑन दैट जर्नी. बट उसमें भी उसकी अपनी लर्निंग्स रही, और जब ड्रोन बन गए, ट्रेनिंग हो गई, देन वी रियलाइज लुक, द ओनली थिंग नाउ लेफ्ट इज टू एक्चुअली इम्प्लीमेंट दिस ऑन ग्राउंड. तो हमने सर्विसेज वाला हमारा वर्टिकल चालू किया, एंड the manufacturing arm, even until today, has not sold a single drone to anybody else. What we realize as a company is we want to make sure that the drone itself gets enough experience on field through our service network, and that's largely been how we've been present across the value chain. तो एक साइड से ड्रोन बनते गए, एक साइड से पायलट ट्रेन हो रहे हैं, एप्लीकेशंस के लिए ट्रेन हो रहे हैं, और हम उनको हमारे अलग अलग नेटवर्क्स पे that's basically how we are progressing in that direction of creating the largest, or a large network of these service hubs, जहाँ अलग अलग टाइप के ड्रोन्स एंड यूज़र के लिए अवेलेबल रहेंगे सर्विसेज के लिए. किसी को स्प्रे कराना है वो स्प्रे करा सकता है, किसी को सर्वे कराना है, किसी को सर्वेलेंस कराना है. बट द आइडिया इज टू गेट द टेक्नोलॉजी क्लोज टू द एंड यूजर एज पॉसिबल. एंड लाइक विपुल सेड, दिस इज सच अ डिसरप्टिव टेक्नोलॉजी. हम वी ऑफ्टन से कि जो सड़क है वो 400 फीट ऊपर हो रही है, एंड नाउ यू हैव फ्लाइंग आइज, राइट, जिससे what you can do every day, you can think of a new use case, and drones would be present. But how we can ensure that this benefits the mass is where we are kind of headed, to ensure there is a seamless integration between and access to this technology. That's where we are headed. And coming to the question of SME and IPO, I think one thing which is good that I would like to share with most companies in India today are also at the drone startup stage, right? Unlike Ankit is of course a legacy player, Vipul's been around for many years now. But I think one thing that we can share from our experience is the retail market today is ready to diversify their investments and invest in startups. So unlike, looking at those traditional mutual funds and, they would put safe bets, today's investor, I could probably, I don't want to bring this name up, but crypto के नाम पे भी लोगों ने बहुत पैसा बनाया, लोगों को एक तरीके से एक हाई रिस्क इन्वेस्टर आया है. बट SME प्लेटफॉर्म पे हमें ऐसे लोग दिखे जो स्टार्टअप्स को सपोर्ट करने के लिए एक नई वेव आई है और दे आर विलिंग टू बैक देम अप, सो विच इज़ गुड स्पेशली ऑन द इंडियन ड्रोन इकोसिस्टम साइड, एंड आई थिंक दैट विल हेल्प द इंडस्ट्री एज वेल because now we'll have certain benchmarks that other players can also look at to when they go back in the market and be able to have something in the aspirational range. So I think, but the journey has been great, lots of due diligence in the beginning, but if your core business model is clear and you have right vision and clarity in terms of what you want to do, and it's not just hearsay or just going by strategy, then there'll be definitely people who will be willing to back you up. Yeah.
Brilliant journey, Chirag. Thanks for sharing. Coming to you, Siddharth, and I guess this is a question that a lot of founders in the room are really looking forward to. Why haven't large VCs started investing in the drone space, right? And what is your outlook? What has changed for you or is changing? Would love to know, because you've been spending a lot of time on the space.
I'll translate the question. Check लिखने के लिए क्या करना पड़ेगा?
So I'll try and cover both. So first of all, I think it's the sheer grit, determination and passion of all the founders and DFI here who got so much credibility to the ecosystem. That makes all of us stand up and take notice of how far it's come. It's a large and growing market. We see there were questions around the regulatory landscape. Now, thanks to the efforts of Smit from DFI, the government machinery, the drone rules came out, which I think make it very clear that VLOS guidelines are there. Startups are free to operate. There is no regulatory uncertainty around it. We've seen support coming from the startups, for the startups from the government in form of PLI and even certain other kind of incentives like subsidies in the agri space, which was very heartening to see. Other developments, I think, from the government, one big step was banning the import of drones. The government is serious about Make in India, promoting the indigenous startups. It gives us an opportunity to create drones that are world-class in India, and eventually, from what I hear this morning, a lot of clarity on the exports. We'll soon start exporting drones as well. Other parts would be, I think, I hear a lot of founders complain about the talent, but honestly, when I interact with youngsters and I ask them, what do you want to do? They talk about the new sunrise sectors in the country. They talk about starting up in drone or joining a drone startup to get experience. They talk about space tech, sending satellites to the sky. And that is what I think tells us that the smartest people are going to join these industries and are going to create a big disruption. And I think last but not the least is 3 IPOs, right? You've had a successful IPO, right? Obviously, Ankit, a big blockbuster IPO. And again, I think we all were disappointed with the lack of any allocation. But all of these factors put together, I think, give us a lot of conviction to the fact that this sector is going to really take off, and now is the time to come in and invest. Now, coming to, I think, Smit's point, which was what will it take to invest? I think the factors that I've mentioned already are good enough to give investors comfort in the fact that this sector is going to take. Now, it's about finding a right complementary team, believing in the sector, right? The team understanding what is the product or service that they're building, how is it, what are the unique pain points or challenges that they're solving for the customers, the level of adoption. Again, it varies by different stages, but for someone who's already started, let's say, targeting a particular sector, are customers repeating, are customers seeing value, are they advocating and referring those solutions to other customers? Those are all signals to kind of lean forward and potentially draw a partnership.
Awesome. Thanks, Siddharth. Last question from my side, and this is for all the founders on stage, right? The domestic ecosystem is picking up, booming, right? There's a lot of government support. When do we see Indian drones flying abroad, right? Going global? Because the ultimate dream is to make India a global drone hub, right? When do you see that happening? What do we need to do to get there?
Yeah, I think we already have some of them flying outside, but I think this year is the year where we will see something start in terms of the early shoots of being able to deliver, being able to see them operationally deployed. And hopefully from next year onwards, we should start seeing genuine benefit of some reasonable volume in that direction. So I think all the hard work that has been done on the export side as well is really helpful. The first time I had gone to take a SCOMET approval took us more than 6 months. I was highlighting this morning as well, and to now hearing that there are demo applications getting approved in 7 days, I think we are in a entirely different operational regime now, and I think with the new opening up for civil uses, I think it's a very exciting time for us to present what we've built over here over the last many years, and what has been operationalized here in fairly large numbers. I think we should be able to make the value apparent to other people when we demonstrate, and we should be able to deploy in those environments with as much ease as we now find it doing over here in India. So excited about it and looking forward to it this year.
Awesome.
I think I'll maybe break my response to that into two parts, one defense and one non-defense application. I think as far as defense is concerned, companies like ideaForge and a few more have been able to really create those niche capabilities, which puts them in a very strong position to start looking at avenues outside India, because they are very much aligned with what robustness and specific capabilities which defense forces are looking for, and they have been proven into some of the harshest environments. And I believe, to technically answer your questions, many of Ankit's drones would be going across the border on a daily basis. So he can't quote that, I can quote that, because we are not listed yet. So the point now coming on the non-defense side, I think it's about the problems which we are solving in India, right? If you pick up some of the problems which drones have been able to successfully solve, taking example of what has happened in Swamitwa, what's happening in large-scale mapping, how NHAI is also using drones, how many oil and gas companies have been effectively able to use. I think Indian companies with their exposure to these use cases are getting very much aligned towards how to build a solution. So I wouldn't say whether the Indian drone flies or not, but Indian solution certainly can go outside, because these problems are not native to Indian geography. A bit of collective, collaborative work would be required here between the industry players, government, academia, and some other influencers out there in the global market. But we are in a position to solve some really tough problems today which exist elsewhere in most of the developing nations, right? It's about just approaching it in the right way. So I believe it can start as good as tomorrow as well. Though the global ecosystem would have not been so favorable so far. It has not been because of the ongoing pandemic scenarios and currently the economic situations which are there. So if we keep that part aside, I think there are enough countries right now trying to learn from what India has done, especially with the policy change which has been brought over the last couple of years. They're trying. In fact, the story is very different. Earlier, our regulators used to draw examples from outside. But if you look at the drone ecosystem, especially drone ecosystem, it's a completely reverse story. The regulators outside India are drawing examples from what has been accomplished in India. So it's a very unique position we are into. You can use this as a diplomatic power to solve some very stringent problems out there. And I think Indian companies and regulators, if they work together, they can scale massively outside in the global markets, and especially developing nations.
Thanks, Vipul. I think I completely echo what he mentioned. One thing outside of product being exported, when we talk about solutions, I definitely feel, personally, we were on a quick, kind of a world tour. We were in Singapore, UK, US, Canada, just over the past 3-4 months, and understanding how the ecosystem is maturing in different countries. And one thing we did realize is, there is a massive shortage of technical manpower to execute drone projects. They don't exist. So it's a great opportunity. I think with the regulatory ecosystem that we in India have, I think we have created enough opportunities for Indian startups or Indian companies to create test beds here and, actually implement. So be it, we talk about survey mapping, we're talking of, with the agricultural spray. So you have the whole country to yourself to showcase solutions to the world which have been executed at a very massive scale. You know, the other countries may just be thinking about it, but we're doing it here. It's happening as we speak. And I think that, you know, encourages a lot of us, you know, at least that gets us very excited to potentially offer. So when we talk about drone capital for the world, you know, the drone capital of the world could come from drones. It'll come from the talented youth that we will have in the country. So we often say, हमने एक IT की bench पूरी दुनिया के लिए बनाई थी. हमने वो Infosys bench करा, हमने जितने Wipro के लोग आए, पूरी दुनिया में जाकर कोड करके अब सब लोगों के लिए innovation create कर रहे हैं. तो वो drone capital की bench हमारे इंडिया एकदम, it's at the ripe stage to pick on that level, which basically means you have the human resource, you have the technology, and you have the services. So the world is your oyster when it comes to, you know, even deploying solutions, creating, you know, ease of, usage. I mean, just, so I think we are very excited कि इस सिस्टम को और इस टेक्नोलॉजी को, इस सोल्यूशन को हम बाहर लेके जाएंगे तो सिर्फ हम इंडिया का ही भला नहीं कर रहे होंगे, पूरे वर्ल्ड का कर रहे होंगे. सो यू नो दैट गेट्स अस वेरी मोटिवेटेड टू रियली वर्क हार्ड टुवर्ड्स दिस इकोसिस्टम. या
Great, thanks. With that, I'll bring the panel to